All right, folks, and we continue with our distinguished panel, retired Major General, U.S. Army, and founder of Stand Up America, Vallely, and LIGNET Chief Analyst Fred Fleitz. And General, Task Force Black, as referred to by Fred in the previous segment, more than just airstrikes needed in Syria. Do you think that's in the future plans of this president?
Well, I don't think so, because I don't think they understand how to fight this unconventional war. I would call this operation Op Plan Destroy ISIS, and I would use what we call Joint Strike Force operations. This is maximum air power. I would put the command under the Commanding General, United States Special Operations Command, and I would assign the Special Operating Forces, which a lot of people don't know, but are composed not only of the Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces, Army Rangers, as well as Marine Recon, as well as the 160th Special Squadron down there, what we call the Night Stalkers, bring in the MC-130 Combat Talon gunships, also the B-52s. And I would launch these covert operations using the Special Operating Forces and maximum air power, and we can destroy ISIS in a very short period of time.
All right, let's move on to the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. And Fred, a lot of Israelis not happy. The cabinet would have rejected this ceasefire. Netanyahu did it unilaterally. Hamas claiming victory. They're getting extended fishing rights. They're going to open the borders to let in equipment and rebuilding supplies. Did Hamas get some kind of victory here?
Well, Hamas is claiming that, and let's cause this a pause in the fighting. Hamas had taken quite a beating. They needed to regroup. Netanyahu had announced a quiet for quiet strategy where he would stop attacking as long as the missiles stopped. But since Hamas is not going to disarm, I'm afraid this is simply a pause for maybe a year or so before the missiles start flying again and there's another Gaza war.
And General, so is that not then, notwithstanding the damage they suffered to leadership and to infrastructure, is it not still some sort of victory for Hamas?
No, there's no victory for Hamas other than they get an extension again and continuation of their buildup that they've experienced over the last few years. And as I've said, there should be no ceasefire. Hamas must be defeated. Gaza must be demilitarized, and then they can begin economic development with the Israelis of the Palestinians there. But there should be no ceasefire. This must be victory over Hamas, which is just as bad as al-Nusra. And so on. So that's
guys. I appreciate your input, General, and Fred Fleitz, Chief Analyst of LIGNET. Thank you both, and we'll be back with the senior contributing editor of the Jerusalem Post, Caroline Glick. But first, it's Harvard Law professor and our friend Alan Dershowitz to talk about workplace speech.
Did you ever say anything to someone in private that you didn't want other people to hear? A nasty comment about your boss, maybe a sexist joke? Of course you did. Admit it. The controversy over Donald Sterling's comments, the ones that were secretly recorded by his girlfriend, actually cost him his NBA franchise. Could you lose your job over something you say privately, even to a spouse or a close friend outside of the workplace? Legally speaking, it all depends. First, in such a case, a court would look at what your job is. If your job is owning a professional basketball team, you may very well lose the team or have to sell it, because the very revelation of your private statements, even though they may have been obtained illegally, could make you unsuitable to continue your ownership. Yes, even if you did nothing actually wrong. If, on the other hand, you were a state or federal civil service employee and made the same comments as Sterling, you would almost certainly be able to keep your job. You can be fired from such a position only if it was proven that you engaged in deliberate wrongdoing. But every job is different with different rules. If you have a contract, if you're a union member, if you have job tenure, you're likely to have greater protection. Most Americans employed by private firms are in a category known as at will, meaning employers can fire you for almost any reason. And so your right to free speech is applicable between an individual and the government. But that right doesn't always apply with a private employer. If you post something on your own Facebook, Twitter, or other social media that your employer doesn't like, and you find out you've been fired, as unfair as that sounds, it might very well be legal. Now, there are exceptions. Federal law prohibits the firing of employees based on discrimination or for retaliation. Also, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 offers some other protections, but not everyone is protected. For example, a priest, a minister, or a rabbi who privately expressed disbelief in God might be acting within his constitutional rights, but might not be suited to continue in his clerical role. You have a right to free speech, but be careful how that right might impact on your employment, and always act accordingly. I'm Alan Dershowitz for Newsmax TV.